Clara Bennett's scream tore through the Texas desert as fangs sank into her calf rattlesnake venom, burning like hellfire through her veins. She clawed at the dirt, vision blackening, waiting for death. Then hands strong and sure gripped her leg. A stranger's voice, low and steady. "Don't move." His mouth pressed to the wound, drawing poison into his own throat, spitting blood and venom into the sand. When their eyes met, his dark and unflinching, he said words that would haunt her forever. "I saved your life. By my mother's law, your soul is bound to mine now." Before we ride into this story, hit that subscribe button and ride with me till the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. Now let's begin. The wagon wheel cracked like a gunshot. Clara Bennett jerked forward, her medical bag spilling across the floorboards, glass vials shattering, bandages unrolling into the dust. The driver cursed, hauling on the reins as the horses screamed and reared. "Damn axles split clean through," he spat, climbing down. "We ain't moving till I get to Redemption Gulch for a spare. That's 3 hours on foot." Clara pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heart hammer beneath her black morning dress. 3 hours. She'd already been traveling for 2 days from St. Louis, every mile, taking her farther from her husband's grave and closer to a future she couldn't yet see. "How far to Salvation Creek?" she asked, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her hands. 6 miles due west." The driver pointed toward a line of red mesas shimmering in the heat. "But ma'am, you can't." "I have a contract. They're expecting a nurse." She gathered her scattered supplies, stuffing them back into her bag. "I'll walk." "Ma'am, that's wild country. Rattlers, coyotes?" "I've nursed men through cholera and consumption." She stepped down from the wagon, her boots sinking into sand. "I'm not afraid of snakes." The driver shook his head. "Your funeral lady." The desert swallowed her whole. Within an hour, Clara's dress clung to her back with sweat. Her canteen was half empty. The sun pressed down like an iron weight, and the silence was so complete she could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She thought about Thomas, her husband. Dead at 32, coughing blood into her hands while she whispered lies about recovery. The doctor had said consumption, but Clara knew the truth. The factory smoke in St. Louis had killed him slow and cruel. After the funeral, his family had made their position clear. "A childless widow of 28 has no place in our home. Find work elsewhere." So here she was, walking through hell toward a mining town that needed a nurse desperate enough to take the job. The rattlesnake struck without warning. She'd stepped over a fallen log, her mind elsewhere, when pain exploded through her right calf. She screamed and fell, and through the dust she saw it coiled and hissing, its rattle a dry whisper of death. "No!" She scrambled backward, but her leg was already on fire. The venom spread fast, burning up through her knee, her thigh. Her vision swam. She fumbled for her medical bag, but her hands wouldn't obey. The desert tilted sideways. She tasted copper. "This is how I die," she thought, alone, just like Thomas. Then she heard hoofbeats. The man appeared like smoke materializing from heat shimmer. A figure on a paint horse, moving with the kind of silence that made Clara wonder if she was already dead and seeing spirits. He swung down before the horse even stopped. "Don't move." His voice was low, calm, the kind of voice that had talked men down from ledges. Clara tried to speak, but her tongue was thick. She managed to point at her leg. He knelt beside her, and she saw him clearly for the first time. Dark hair tied back with leather, sun-bronzed skin, high cheekbones and eyes the color of river stone. Young, maybe 30, but with the kind of face that had seen too much too soon. His fingers found the bite marks. "Rattler. How long?" 5 minutes. She could barely breathe. "Then we've got time." He pulled a knife from his belt. Panic shot through her. "What are you?" "Saving your life." He sliced open her stocking in one clean motion, exposing the wound. "This is going to hurt." He pressed the knife to her skin, cutting shallow crosses over each fang mark. Blood welled up dark and thick. Then he did something that made her gasp. He lowered his mouth to her leg and sucked. Clara's scream was more shock than pain. She tried to pull away, but his hand clamped around her thigh, holding her still with impossible strength. He sucked again hard, then spat a mouthful of blood and venom onto the sand. Again. And again. "Stop, you'll poison yourself." He lifted his head, his lips stained red. "I know what I'm doing." He tore a strip from his shirt and bound her leg tight above the wound, then pulled her canteen from her bag and made her drink. The water was warm and tasted like tin, but it cleared her head enough to see him properly. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Jesse Stone." He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "Some call me Wolfsong." "That's Apache. My mother was." He said it flat like he'd explained it 1,000 times. "My father was a trapper from Missouri. I'm what folks call a half-breed." He met her eyes, daring her to flinch. She didn't. "Thank you." Something flickered across his face, surprise maybe. "Don't thank me yet. You're not out of danger." He lifted her onto his horse, and Clara was too weak to protest. He swung up behind her, one arm circling her waist to keep her upright. She felt the heat of him through her dress, the steady rhythm of his breathing. "Where were you headed?" he asked. "Salvation Creek. I'm the new nurse." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "That town doesn't take kindly to outsiders." "I'm not an outsider. I have a contract." "You will be, once they see you with me." She wanted to argue, but exhaustion dragged her under. Her head fell back against his shoulder, and the last thing she heard before darkness took her was his voice, low and steady. "Sleep. I've got you." Clara woke to voices. "Can't bring her here, Jesse. You know what they'll say." She was dying, Doc. What was I supposed to do? Leave her where you found her like any smart man would. Her eyes fluttered open. She was lying on a cot in a small room that smelled of carbolic and whiskey. An older man with wire-rimmed spectacles stood over her, his face lined with worry. Jesse stood by the window, arms crossed. "She's awake," the doctor said. "How do you feel, Miss—" "Like I was kicked by a horse." Clara tried to sit up, and pain shot through her leg. She gasped. "Easy." The doctor pressed her back down. "You took a full dose of venom. You're lucky Jesse found you when he did. Another 10 minutes and—" He shook his head. Clara looked at Jesse. He was staring out the window, his jaw tight. "Thank you," she said. "You saved my life." He turned, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. It wasn't pride or satisfaction. It was something heavier, burdensome. "Yeah," he said softly. "I did." The doctor cleared his throat. "I'm Dr. Caleb Warren. Welcome to Salvation Creek, Mrs. Bennett. Clara Bennett." She hesitated. "It's Mrs. I'm widowed." "I see." The doctor's expression softened. "Well, Mrs. Bennett, you'll need to rest for a few days before you can take up your duties. The venom—" "I can work." She swung her legs off the cot, ignoring the pain. "I didn't come all this way to lie in bed." "Stubborn," Jesse muttered. She shot him a look. "Determined." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. The door banged open and 3 men entered. The first was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a sheriff's star. The second was thin and sharp-featured, dressed in a black suit. The third was young, barely 20, with nervous eyes. The sheriff's gaze went straight to Jesse. "Heard you brought in a white woman." "She was snake-bit." Jesse's voice was carefully neutral. "I brought her to Doc." "That's all. That's all." The thin man stepped forward. "I'm Mayor Silas Crenshaw, and you, Mrs. Bennett, are the nurse we hired." His eyes raked over her, calculating. "Though I'll admit, we expected someone older." "I'm 28 and fully trained." Clara forced herself to stand, even though her legs screamed in protest. "I nursed in St. Louis for 6 years. St. Louis. The mayor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. A city woman. This will be quite an adjustment for you. I adjust quickly. Good. He glanced at Jesse. You can go now, Stone. Your services are no longer required. Jesse didn't move. She needs watching. Venom can... Dr. Warren will handle it. The sheriff stepped forward, his hand resting on his gun belt. Time for you to leave. The silence stretched tight. Then Jesse nodded once and walked out without another word. Clara watched him go, and something in her chest twisted. Wait. Mrs. Bennett? The mayor's voice was silk over steel. A word of advice. Jesse Stone is not the sort of man a respectable woman associates with. He's useful for tracking and scouting, but that's all. Do you understand? She understood perfectly. I understand that he saved my life. Yes, and now that debt is paid. The mayor smiled again. Welcome to Salvation Creek. I trust you'll find our community very welcoming. When they left, Clara sank back onto the cot, her hands shaking. Dr. Warren sat down beside her with a heavy sigh. You should know something about Jesse. I already know. He's half Apache. It's more than that. The doctor pulled off his spectacles and rubbed his eyes. His mother was Apache. His father was a white trapper who married her proper in a church. But when Jesse was 10, his father was killed in a raid Comanche, not Apache, and his mother took him back to her people. He lived with them for 8 years. Then the soldiers came. Clara's throat tightened. What happened? His mother was killed in the fighting. Jesse was captured, brought back to civilization. The bitterness in his voice was thick. The army made him a scout. Said it was better than prison. He's been doing it for 5 years now. Neither side trusts him. White men see Apache. Apache see a traitor. But he saved me. He saves a lot of people. Dr. Warren put his spectacles back on. He's the best tracker in 3 territories, and the only man who can negotiate with the Apache band still holding out. But the folks here? He shook his head. They tolerate him because they need him. That's all. Clara stared at the window where Jesse had stood. He said something, when he saved me. Something about his mother's law. The doctor went very still. What exactly did he say? That I was bound to him, because he saved my life. Dr. Warren closed his eyes. Lord have mercy. What does that mean? Among the Apache, there's a belief more than a belief. A law that if you save someone's life, you become responsible for that soul. Not as a servant or possession, but as a guardian. Their fate is tied to yours. He looked at her. Did you accept it? I didn't say anything. Then you didn't refuse it either. He stood gathering his instruments. Mrs. Bennett, I'd advise you to stay far away from Jesse Stone, for both your sakes. But as Clara lay back down her leg, throbbing and her mind racing, she could still feel the ghost of his arm around her waist, the steady beat of his heart against her spine. Your soul is bound to mine now. She didn't believe in Apache laws or spirit bonds. But she believed that a man who would suck poison from a stranger's veins was the kind of man worth knowing. And in Salvation Creek, that belief would either save her or destroy her. Clara's first morning in Salvation Creek started with a gunshot. She bolted upright in the narrow bed above the clinic, her heart slamming against her ribs. Voices shouted outside. Boots pounded on wooden planks. She grabbed her shawl and hurried to the window. The street below was chaos. Men ran toward the saloon, guns drawn. A woman screamed. Then she saw him, a miner, stumbling out of the building, clutching his stomach, blood pouring between his fingers. Clara didn't think. She ran. Mrs. Bennett, wait! Dr. Warren's voice followed her down the stairs, but she was already out the door, her medical bag in hand. The miner collapsed in the dirt. She dropped beside him, tearing open his shirt. The bullet had entered just below his ribs, angled upward. Bad. Very bad. Help me get him inside, she ordered the men standing around like fence posts. That's Jim Holloway, someone said. He caught his wife with, I don't care what he caught. Help me. They carried him into the saloon. Clara worked fast, packing the wound with clean cloth, her hands steady, even as Jim screamed. Dr. Warren arrived with his kit, and together they dug out the bullet. He'll live, the doctor said, finally wiping sweat from his forehead. If infection doesn't take him. Clara sat back, her dress soaked in blood. Her hands were shaking now that it was over. You did good, ma'am. One of the miners said, his voice respectful. Real good. She nodded, too exhausted to speak. That's when she saw Jesse. He stood in the doorway, half in shadow, watching her. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. Then the sheriff pushed past him. All right, show's over. Back to work, all of you. Jesse disappeared into the morning light. The next 3 days passed in a blur of work. Clara treated burns, set broken bones, delivered a baby in a tent on the edge of town. The miners called her Doc Lady and tipped their hats when she passed. The women were more careful, polite, but distant, their eyes measuring. She felt their judgment like a weight. Too young, too pretty, widowed, too convenient. On the 4th day, she saw Jesse again. She was walking to the general store when she heard raised voices. A crowd had gathered near the livery stable. She pushed through and stopped cold. Jesse stood in the center of the circle, his face blank, while a thick-shouldered man in a checked shirt jabbed a finger at his chest. I hired you to track those rustlers, half-breed. You brought back nothing. Because there were no rustlers. Jesse's voice was flat. Your cattle wandered into the canyon. I found them. Liar, the man spat. You probably sold them to your Apache friends. I don't have Apache friends anymore, Garrett. You know that. What I know is you're worthless. Garrett shoved him. Hard. Jesse didn't move, didn't fight back, just stood there taking it. Hey! Clara's voice cut through the murmurs. She stepped forward. That's enough. Every head turned toward her. Garrett's eyes narrowed. This ain't your business, ma'am. It is if you're disturbing the peace while I'm trying to shop. She kept her voice level, but her pulse hammered. Mr. Stone did the job you hired him for. If you're not satisfied, take it up with the sheriff. The sheriff don't care about no half-breed. Then I suppose you'll just have to accept that your cattle are stupid. She smiled sweetly. Good day, gentlemen. She turned and walked toward the store, her spine rigid. Behind her, someone laughed. Then another. The crowd dispersed, muttering. She was inside examining a bolt of cloth when Jesse appeared beside her. That was foolish, he said quietly. You're welcome. She didn't look at him. I didn't ask for your help. No, you just stood there like a whipping post. Now she did look at him, and the words came out sharper than she intended. Why didn't you fight back? His jaw tightened. Because if I hit a white man, even in self-defense, they'd hang me. The truth of it hit her like cold water. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't think. No, you didn't. But his voice had softened. You should stay away from me, Mrs. Bennett. People are already talking. Let them talk. You don't understand how it works here. I understand that you saved my life. She met his eyes. And I understand that I don't like watching good men get treated like dogs. Something flickered in his expression, surprise maybe, or something deeper. Your leg, he said. How is it? Healing, thanks to you. He nodded once and left without another word. Clara paid for her cloth with hands that trembled. Ciao. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, listening to the sounds of the town piano music from the saloon, drunken laughter, a dog barking somewhere. She thought about Jesse's face when Garrett shoved him, the careful blankness, the control. She thought about Thomas, how he'd never had to hide who he was. Never had to swallow his pride just to survive another day. At midnight, she heard footsteps on the stairs. Then, a soft knock. "Mrs. Bennett?" Dr. Warren's voice was urgent. "We need you." She dressed quickly and followed him into the street. A wagon had pulled up in front of the clinic, and in the back lay a girl, maybe 16, unconscious, burning with fever. "Came from the mining camp up north," the driver said. "She's been sick for 3 days." Clara and Dr. Warren carried her inside. The moment Clara pulled back the blanket, her stomach dropped. "Smallpox." The doctor's face went white. "Are you sure?" "I nursed 20 cases in St. Louis." She pointed to the rash covering the girl's chest. "We need to quarantine her. Now. If word gets out, word needs to get out. Anyone who's been near her needs vaccination. We don't have vaccine." Clara closed her eyes. "Then we need to send for it. Fast." By dawn, 3 more cases had appeared. All miners from the northern camp. Dr. Warren set up quarantine in the old church at the edge of town, while Clara worked through the night cooling fevers, forcing water down parched throats. The town council met at noon. Clara stood before them exhausted and covered in sweat. "How bad is it?" Mayor Crenshaw asked. 4 confirmed cases, maybe more coming. She gripped the back of a chair. "We need vaccine from Fort Prescott. That's a 3-day ride." 3 days there, 3 days back. The mayor shook his head. By then we might have an epidemic." Clara's voice was steel. "We need a fast rider, someone who knows the territory." The sheriff spoke up. "Jesse Stone." Silence fell. "Absolutely not," Crenshaw said. "We're not trusting something this important to a half-breed." "He's the best rider we have," the sheriff countered. "And he knows every shortcut between here and Prescott." "I don't care if he can fly." Crenshaw's face was red. "I won't have him representing this town." "Then you'll have dead miners." Clara's hands were shaking with fury. "And dead children. And dead women. Is your pride worth that?" Crenshaw's eyes went cold. "Watch your tongue, Mrs. Bennett." "Send Jesse," she said, "or I'll ride to Fort Prescott myself." The men stared at her. "You can't ride that far," Dr. Warren said gently. "Then send someone who can." She looked at each man in turn. "Make your choice." An hour later, Jesse was saddling his horse when Clara found him. "They're sending you," she said. "I know." He didn't look at her, just tightened the cinch. "Doc told me. You'll need money for the vaccine, and a letter of authorization." She held out an envelope. "I wrote it myself." He took it, his fingers brushing hers. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Fighting for me. Defending me." He finally looked at her, and his eyes were full of something she couldn't name. "I'm nothing to you. You saved my life. So now you think you owe me?" "No." She stepped closer. "I think you deserve better than what this town gives you." He stared at her for a long moment. Then, "You really believe that?" "Yes." "You're going to regret it." "Maybe." She managed a smile. "But I've regretted a lot of things in my life, and standing up for what's right has never been one of them." He swung up into the saddle. The horse danced sideways, eager to run. 6 days, he said. "I'll be back in 6 days. Be careful." He touched the brim of his hat. "Always a ma'am." Then he was gone, dust rising behind him like smoke. The next 3 days were hell. 2 more miners came down with smallpox. Then a child. Clara worked until she couldn't see straight, until her hands cramped and her back screamed. Dr. Warren collapsed on the second night, and she had to treat him too. Exhaustion, he said, but she saw the fear in his eyes. On the third night, she sat alone in the church, watching a young miner named Billy struggle to breathe. His face was covered in pustules. His fever had broken twice and come back stronger each time. "Am I gonna die, ma'am?" he whispered. "No." She wiped his face with a cool cloth. "You're going to be fine. You're a terrible liar." She almost smiled. "Then I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. But I'm not giving up on you, so don't you give up either." He nodded and closed his eyes. Clara stepped outside to catch her breath. The stars were bright and cold. Somewhere out there, Jesse was riding through the dark, carrying their only hope. "Please," she whispered to the night, "let him make it." Jesse came back on the 6th day, just before sunset. Clara was in the quarantine church when she heard the shout, "Rider coming!" She ran outside. The whole town had gathered in the street, watching a lone figure gallop toward them on a lathered horse. It was Jesse. His face was gaunt with exhaustion, his clothes thick with dust. He pulled up hard in front of the clinic and half fell from the saddle. Clara caught his arm. "Did you get it?" He nodded and pulled a leather pouch from his saddlebag. 50 doses. It's all they had. Relief crashed through her so hard she almost sobbed. "Thank God." Dr. Warren took the pouch with shaking hands. "We'll start vaccinations immediately." Jesse swayed on his feet. Clara steadied him. "When did you last eat?" "Don't remember." "Come on." She pulled him toward the clinic. "You need food and rest." "I'm fine." "You're about to fall over." She pushed open the door. "Sit." He sat. She brought him bread and beef, and he ate like a starving man. When he finished, he leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. "How bad was the ride?" she asked softly. "Ran into a Apache patrol near Canyon Diablo." He didn't open his eyes. "They recognized me." Her stomach clenched. "What happened?" "They let me pass. But they weren't happy about it." He touched his side, and she saw blood on his shirt. "You're hurt." She was already reaching for bandages. "It's nothing." "Let me see." He pulled up his shirt. A knife wound, shallow but long, cut across his ribs. Clara cleaned it quickly, her hands gentle but efficient. "They could have killed you," she said. "Yeah. But they didn't." "My mother's brother was in that patrol." His voice was flat. "He said I shamed her memory by serving the white men. Then he cut me and told me to go." Clara's hands stilled. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." He looked at her, then his eyes dark and tired. "I made my choices." "Why do you do it? Why do you stay here when nobody wants you?" He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because I don't have anywhere else to go." The honesty in his voice broke something inside her. "Jesse." The door banged open. Mayor Crenshaw stood there, flanked by 2 men. "Stone," he said coldly. "The council wants to see you." Hon. The meeting was held in the saloon, packed with townspeople. Clara followed Jesse inside, ignoring the mayor's protest. "You delivered the vaccine," Crenshaw said. "The town thanks you for your service." "But," Jesse's voice was level, "but there's been a complaint." Crenshaw held up a piece of paper. "A rancher named Tom Garrett claims you stole his horses while he was away." Silence fell like a hammer. "That's a lie," Clara said. "Mrs. Bennett, this doesn't concern you." "It does if you're accusing an innocent man." She stepped forward. "Jesse's been riding for 6 days straight. When did he supposedly steal these horses?" 4 days ago, Garrett said, standing. "I found tracks leading to Apache territory. Half-breed tracks." "You can't tell Apache tracks from anyone else's," Jesse said quietly. "I can tell when my horses go missing, and you're the only one who deals with them savages." "I haven't been near your ranch in a month." "Liar." Garrett's face was red. Sheriff, arrest him. The sheriff hesitated. Tom, we don't have proof. You want proof. He's Apache. That's all the proof we need. Stop. Clara's voice rang out. This is insane. He just saved this entire town. She's right, Dr. Warren said from the back. Without Jesse, half of you would be dead in a week. Don't matter what he did, someone called out. Can't trust a half-breed. The murmurs grew louder, angrier. Jesse stood very still, his face blank. Clara recognized that look now, the careful control of a man who'd learned that showing emotion could get him killed. Enough. The sheriff raised his hand. Jesse, you're confined to town until we sort this out. You're joking, Clara said. I'm keeping the peace, ma'am. The sheriff looked uncomfortable. It's for his own safety. Jesse turned and walked out without a word. Clara followed him into the street. Jesse, wait. Go back inside, Mrs. Bennett. They're lying. You know they're lying. Of course they're lying. He kept walking, his shoulders rigid. But it doesn't matter. It matters to me. He stopped, turned. In the lamplight from the saloon, his eyes were fierce and wounded all at once. Why? He asked. Why do you care what happens to me? Because you're a good man. I'm a half-breed scout who doesn't belong anywhere. His voice was raw. Your people hate me. My people hate me. So tell me, Mrs. Bennett, what exactly makes me good? You saved my life. She stepped closer. You rode 6 days without rest to save this town. You take every insult and every shove without fighting back because you know they're looking for an excuse to hang you. Her voice broke. That takes more courage than anything I've ever seen. He stared at her, something shifting behind his eyes. You're going to get yourself hurt, he said softly. Defending me. Then I'll get hurt. Clara. It was the first time he'd used her given name. The sound of it on his lips made her breath catch. Before she could respond, a scream split the night. They ran together toward the sound. A woman stood in front of the general store, pointing toward the hills. Fire, she gasped. The mining camp. It's on fire. Orange light flickered on the horizon. Smoke rose black against the stars. The quarantine patients, Clara whispered. They're still up there. Jesse was already running toward his horse. Jesse, no, you're exhausted. Stay here. He swung into the saddle. Keep people calm. I'm coming with you. Clara. Those are my patients. She grabbed the saddle horn. Help me up or get out of my way. He hesitated for only a second. Then he pulled her up behind him. They rode hard into the darkness, the smell of smoke growing stronger with every stride. Clara held on to Jesse's waist, feeling the exhaustion in his body, the way he swayed in the saddle. How much farther? She called over the pounding hooves. 1/4 mile. The mining camp appeared through the smoke, a cluster of tents and shacks, half of them already burning. Men ran everywhere, hauling water, shouting orders. And in the center of the chaos stood the quarantine tent flames, licking at its edges. Jesse pulled up hard. Clara jumped down and ran. Wait, Jesse caught her arm. It might collapse. There are people inside. She tore free and ducked into the tent. Smoke choked her immediately. Through the haze, she saw 2 cots. Billy was on one, unconscious. A woman she didn't recognize lay on the other. Help me, she screamed. Jesse appeared beside her. Together they dragged Billy toward the exit. The tent groaned. Canvas ripped overhead and burning fabric fell like rain. They got Billy outside, just as the tent collapsed behind them. Clara coughed, tears streaming from the smoke. The woman... I'll get her. Jesse was already moving back toward the flames. It's too dangerous. But he was gone, disappearing into the inferno. Clara's heart stopped. Seconds stretched into eternity. The fire roared higher. Then Jesse emerged, the woman in his arms, his shirt smoking. He stumbled and went down hard on his knees. Clara ran to him. Are you hurt? I'm fine. But his voice was ragged. Is she breathing? Clara checked. Barely. We need to get her to the clinic. Miners loaded both patients onto a wagon. Jessie stood slowly swaying. You're not fine, Clara said. He collapsed. Clara caught him before he hit the ground, his weight nearly dragging her down. Help me, she shouted. Somebody help me. Two miners lifted Jessie into the wagon beside the other patients. Clara climbed in, cradling his head in her lap. His eyes fluttered open. Did we get them out? Yes. She smoothed his hair back, her hands trembling. You got them out. Now rest. Can't rest. But his eyes closed anyway. Too much to do. Jessie. Her voice broke. Please, just rest. His hand found hers, squeezed once, then went limp. The wagon rolled through the night toward Salvation Creek, carrying the man who'd saved them all. And Clara sat holding him covered in ash and blood and smoke, finally understanding what Dr. Warren had tried to warn her about. She wasn't just defending Garrett Stone anymore. She was falling in love with him. And in this town, that was the most dangerous thing she could possibly do. Jessie woke to lamplight and the smell of carbolic. His chest felt like someone had driven a branding iron through it. When he tried to sit up, pain exploded across his ribs. Don't move. Clara's voice soft but firm. Her hand pressed against his shoulder. He blinked until her face came into focus. She looked exhausted, her hair falling loose from its pins, dark circles under her eyes. How long? His throat was raw. 2 days. She held a cup of water to his lips. You had smoke in your lungs, and you collapsed from exhaustion. He drank, then pushed the cup away. The patient's... Billy died this morning. Her voice cracked. The woman made it. So did the others. Jessie closed his eyes. I'm sorry. You saved 5 people, Jessie. You can't save everyone. Feels like I should. She was quiet for a moment. Then, the town council met yesterday. His stomach tightened. And? They dropped the horse theft charges. Tom Garrett's neighbor came forward, said he saw coyotes spook the horses. They just ran off. She paused. Garrett's been run out of town for filing false charges. Jessie stared at her. You did that? I didn't do anything. The truth did. The truth doesn't matter here, unless someone makes it matter. He caught her hand. That was you. Her fingers tightened around his. You keep saving this town. Someone had to save you back. The door opened. Dr. Warren walked in, took one look at them holding hands, and cleared his throat. Clara pulled away quickly, her cheeks flushing. You're awake, the doctor said. Good. Your lungs are clear, but you need rest. Real rest. No riding for at least a week. Can't do that. You will do that, or I'll have the sheriff lock you up for your own good. Dr. Warren's voice was steel. You're no use to anyone dead, Jessie. After the doctor left, Jessie tried to stand. His legs buckled. Clara caught him, her arms surprisingly strong. You heard him, she said. Rest. I need to check the perimeter. Apache have been moving closer. The sheriff can handle it. The sheriff doesn't know Apache signs. Then teach someone else. She guided him back to the bed. You can't do everything alone. I've been doing it alone for 5 years. Well, you're not alone anymore. She met his eyes. Whether you like it or not. Something in her voice made his chest ache worse than the smoke damage. Clara. Rest, Jessie. We'll talk when you're stronger. But they both knew some conversations couldn't wait. 3 days later, Jessie was on his feet again, moving slow but steady. Clara found him behind the clinic at dawn, checking his horse's hooves. You're supposed to be resting, she said. I've rested enough. He didn't look at her. Need to earn my keep. You've earned it 10 times over. He straightened, and she saw the tension in his shoulders. People are talking, Clara. Let them talk. It's not that simple. He finally turned to face her. You're a respectable widow. I'm a half-breed scout. You being seen with me, it damages your reputation. I don't care about my reputation. You should. His voice was harsh. This town is all you have. You lose their respect, you lose your position. Then what? Then I find another town. There is no other town. Not for a woman alone. He stepped closer. I won't let you throw your life away for me. That's not your choice to make. The hell it isn't. His eyes were fierce. I saved your life. Remember, your soul is bound to mine. That means I'm responsible for you. I'm not your responsibility. Her voice shook. I'm not some burden you have to carry. No, you're the first person in 5 years who's looked at me like I'm human. The rawness in his voice stopped her cold. And that scares me more than any Apache patrol or lynch mob ever could. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they couldn't say. Then Clara did something reckless. She stepped forward and took his face in her hands. I see you, Jesse Stone, she whispered. Not half-breed or scout or outcast. Just you. And what I see is worth fighting for. He stared at her like she'd struck him. Then his hands came up to cover hers, rough and gentle at once. You're going to regret this, he said. Probably. She smiled through tears. But I've already lost one man I loved. I won't lose another without a fight. Clara. Boot steps sounded on the path. They broke apart just as Mayor Crenshaw rounded the corner, flanked by 2 men Clara didn't recognize. Mrs. Bennett, Crenshaw said coldly. We need to speak with you, privately. Jesse's jaw tightened. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of me. This is town business, Stone, not yours. It's fine, Clara said quietly, though her heart hammered. I'll come. She followed them into the church, now empty of quarantine patients. The mayor closed the door with a decisive click. Mrs. Bennett, the council has received complaints about your conduct. What complaints? You've been seen in the company of Jesse Stone, repeatedly, often alone. Crenshaw's eyes were cold. Some say you held his hand in the clinic. Is that true? Clara's spine stiffened. He was my patient. I provide comfort to all my patients. We're not talking about comfort. We're talking about propriety. One of the other men spoke up. Reverend Blackwood, she realized. You're a widow, Mrs. Bennett. You should be in mourning, not consorting with savages. Consorting? The word tasted like poison. I'm doing my job. Jesse Stone has been injured multiple times serving this town. I treated his wounds, that's all. That's not all. Crenshaw pulled out a folded paper. 3 witnesses saw you ride out to the mining campfire with him, alone, at night, unchaperoned. There was an emergency. There's always an emergency when it comes to Stone. The mayor's voice was sharp. You've defended him publicly, argued with town leaders on his behalf, nursed him personally when Dr. Warren could have done it. He paused. Some say you've become attached. Clara's hands clenched at her sides. What exactly are you accusing me of? We're not accusing you of anything yet. Reverend Blackwood stepped forward. We're warning you. The town has standards. If you continue to associate with that half-breed, we'll have no choice but to terminate your contract. The threat hung in the air like smoke. You'd fire me? Clara's voice was dangerously quiet. After I helped stop a smallpox epidemic, after I've worked day and night for your people. We appreciate your service, Crenshaw said smoothly. But we can't have our town nurse engaging in scandalous behavior. It sets a poor example. Scandalous behavior? She laughed, bitter and sharp. Jesse Stone has saved more lives than anyone in this room. He's risked himself repeatedly for people who spit on him. And you call me scandalous for treating him with basic human decency. We call you foolish, Blackwood snapped. That man is dangerous. Half Apache, half white. He belongs nowhere. Eventually he'll turn on us. They always do. He won't turn on anyone. Clara's voice shook with fury. But you've already turned on him. You use him when you need him, then cast him aside like trash. Watch your tone, Crenshaw warned. Or what, you'll fire me. She stepped forward. Go ahead. But know this, if I leave, Jesse leaves. And the next time you need someone to ride through Apache territory, or track rustlers, or save your children from fire, you'll have no one. Crenshaw's face went red. Are you threatening us? I'm telling you the truth. She met each man's eyes in turn. You need Jesse Stone more than you'll ever admit. And if you make me choose between this job and defending him, I'll choose him every time. The Reverend made a disgusted sound. You're in love with him. Clara's breath caught. She hadn't said it out loud, not even to herself. But standing in that church facing their judgment, she realized it was true. Yes, she said quietly. I am. Silence crashed through the room. Then you're a fool, Crenshaw said finally. And you're dismissed. Pack your things. We'll find another nurse. You won't find anyone willing to come out here for what you pay. Clara's voice was steady now. But that's your problem, not mine. She walked out with her head high, leaving them standing in the shadows. Hey, Jesse was waiting by the clinic, his face tight with worry. What happened? I've been fired. She kept walking, didn't let herself stop, or she'd fall apart. What? He caught her arm. Clara. They said I was engaging in scandalous behavior, associating with you. She finally looked at him, and her eyes were burning. They gave me a choice. You or the job. His face went pale. No, you can't, Clara. You need this job. I know. Then go back. Tell them you'll keep your distance. Tell them. I told them I choose you. The words came out fierce and final. I told them I'm in love with you and they can go to hell. Jesse stared at her like she'd shot him. You didn't. I did. Why? His voice cracked. Why would you do that? Because it's true. Tears spilled down her cheeks now. Because I'm tired of being afraid. Because my whole life, I've done what was proper and expected, and it never made me happy. She grabbed his shirt. You make me happy, Jesse. You make me feel alive, and I won't apologize for that. He pulled her into his arms, then holding her so tight she could barely breathe. She felt him shaking, felt the way his heart hammered against her cheek. You're insane, he whispered into her hair. Probably. You just threw away everything for me. Not everything. She pulled back to look at him. I still have you. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. I don't deserve you. Good thing I'm not asking what you deserve. She managed a shaky smile. I'm just asking if you want me. Want you? He laughed rough and broken. Clara, I've wanted you since the moment you defended me in that street. Since you looked at me like I was worth something. His voice dropped. I'm half in love with you, and it terrifies me. Only half? All the way. He rested his forehead against hers. All the way in love with you. Completely. Helplessly. She kissed him, then soft and desperate. He kissed her back like a drowning man finding air, his hands tangling in her hair. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Clara whispered, What do we do now? I don't know. Jesse's eyes were dark with worry. They'll make your life hell if you stay. Then maybe we don't stay. He went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying there are other towns, other places that might be more accepting. She took a deep breath. Or we could go somewhere new, start fresh. Clara, that's crazy reckless. She smiled. Yes, but I've been sensible my whole life, and where did it get me? A dead husband and a job I just lost. She squeezed his hands. I want to be reckless for once. With you. Before Jesse could answer, Dr. Warren came running around the corner, his face stricken. "Clara, Jesse, thank God." He was breathing hard. "There's been an attack. Apache raiders hit the Dawson Ranch. 3 dead, 2 missing." Jesse's expression hardened instantly. "When?" "Last night. Sheriff's forming a posse." Dr. Warren looked between them. "Jesse, they're saying it was your mother's people. That you... what led them there." Jesse's voice was flat. "Of course they are." "I don't believe it," the doctor said quickly. "But others do. You need to be careful." "I need to track them." Jesse was already moving toward his horse. "If the Dawson girls are still alive..." "You can't go alone," Clara said. "I won't be. Posse's riding out in an hour." "They'll never trust you. They might..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Might hang me." Jesse met her eyes. "Yeah, but if I don't help, they'll definitely hang me. At least this way I can do some good first." "Jesse." He kissed her hard and fast. "Stay here. Stay safe. I'll come back." "You'd better." Her voice broke. "Because I just burned my whole life down for you, and I expect a return on that investment." He almost smiled. Then he swung onto his horse and rode toward the gathering crowd in the town square. Clara watched him go, her heart in her throat. Dr. Warren touched her shoulder gently. "He'll be all right. Jesse always comes back." "Does he?" She turned to look at him. "Or does he just keep getting lucky?" The doctor had no answer for that. "Am I in there?" The posse rode out at noon, 12 men all armed, all angry. Jesse led reading signs on the ground that Clara couldn't begin to understand. The sheriff rode beside him, rifle across his saddle. Clara stood in the street with the other women watching them disappear into the dust. Beside her, a woman named Margaret whispered, "They shouldn't trust that half-breed. He probably planned the whole thing." Clara turned slowly. "Jesse Stone has done nothing but serve this town faithfully for 5 years. If you have proof otherwise, present it. If not, keep your ignorance to yourself." Margaret's face went red. "How dare you? How dare I?" Clara's voice rose. "How dare you condemn a man because of his mother's blood? Jesse's saved more lives than any of you. He's earned respect, not suspicion." "He's earned a rope," someone muttered. Clara spun toward the voice. It was a miner named Jack, his face twisted with hate. "My brother died in that raid. Far as I'm concerned, every Apache deserves killing, including half-breeds." "Your brother died because raiders attacked, not because of Jesse. He's one of them. He's one of us." Clara stepped forward, her hands shaking but her voice steady. "And if anything happens to him while he's helping you ungrateful cowards, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of town this is." "You threatening us?" Jack moved closer. "I'm promising you." She didn't back down. "Touch him, and I'll burn this town's reputation to the ground." Dr. Warren appeared at her elbow. "That's enough. Everyone go home." The crowd dispersed, slowly muttering. When they were gone, the doctor turned to Clara. "That was brave and stupid," he said quietly. "I know. They'll make you pay for it. I know that too." She looked toward the horizon where the posse had vanished. "But I meant what I said. If they hurt him, then we'll deal with it together." Dr. Warren's voice was kind. "You're not alone, Clara." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. The hours crawled past like wounded animals. Clara tried to work organizing supplies, cleaning instruments, anything to keep her hands busy. But her mind kept circling back to Jesse riding into danger with men who hated him. At sunset, a rider appeared, one of the posse members, his horse lathered and stumbling. "Doc," he shouted. "Need help!" Clara ran out with her bag. The man had been shot a bullet through his shoulder. She and Dr. Warren got him inside and started working. "What happened?" the doctor asked as he probed for the bullet. "Ambush. Apache were waiting in the canyon." The man's face was gray with pain. We lost 2 men, Matthews and Cordell. Clara's hands froze. Where's Jesse? Took off after them. Said he recognized one of the raiders, his uncle or something. The man coughed. Sheriff went with him. Rest of us came back. You left them. Her voice was sharp. Weren't our fight. Let the half-breed deal with his own people. Clara wanted to hit him. Instead, she pulled the bullet out harder than necessary. He screamed. Sorry, she said flatly. My hand slipped. After they bandaged him up, Clara paced the clinic like a caged animal. Night fell. Still no sign of Jesse or the sheriff. At midnight, Dr. Warren made her sit. You need rest. I can't rest. Not while he's out there. Clara, don't. She pressed her hands to her face. Don't tell me to be sensible. I've lost that option. The doctor sighed. When did you know that you loved him? I think I knew when he pulled poison from my leg with his own mouth. She lowered her hands. But I didn't admit it until today. Terrible timing. Story of my life. She almost laughed, but it came out as a sob. Dr. Warren handed her his handkerchief. He'll come back. You don't know that. No, he admitted. But I know Jesse. He survived worse. Kuntik. Jesse came back at dawn alone. Clara saw him from the clinic window, slumped in his saddle covered in blood and dust. She ran out so fast she nearly fell. Jesse. He slid from his horse and stumbled. She caught him and they went down together in the dirt. Are you hurt? Her hands flew over him, searching for wounds. Not my blood. His voice was hoarse. Sheriff's dead. They ambushed us. Oh, God. Clara helped him to his feet. What happened? My uncle was leading the raid. Jesse's voice broke. He said I had one chance. Rejoin the people or die with the whites. What did you say? I said I'd already made my choice. He looked at her with eyes full of pain. So he shot the sheriff and told me to carry the message back. Next time, everyone dies. Clara's blood ran cold. They're coming here. 3 days, maybe less. Jesse swayed on his feet. I need to warn the council. You need to rest. No time. But his legs buckled. This time, Clara had helped 2 miners who'd seen Jesse return, lifted him between them, and carried him into the clinic. Dr. Warren examined him quickly. Exhaustion again. Dehydration. Bruised ribs. The doctor looked grim. He can't keep doing this. I know. Clara sat beside Jesse's cot, taking his hand. But try telling him that. Jesse's eyes fluttered open. Clara. I'm here. The sheriff, he died protecting me. His grip tightened. They're going to blame me. Let them. Her voice was fierce. You tried to save him. That's what matters. No one will see it that way. He was right. When word spread that Sheriff Coleman was dead and Jesse had returned alone, the town erupted. Men gathered in the street, angry and armed. Clara heard the shouts from inside the clinic. Half-breed killed him. Probably planned it with his Apache friends. String him up. Dr. Warren locked the clinic door. Stay inside. They'll break it down, Clara said. Not if I talk to them first. The doctor grabbed his hat. Caleb, don't... But he was already gone. Clara watched through the window as Dr. Warren faced the mob. She couldn't hear what he said, but she saw the crowd's anger shift. Some men lowered their rifles. Others shook their heads and walked away, but not all of them. A core group remained, Jack the miner and 5 others, their faces twisted with hate. They pushed past Dr. Warren and headed for the clinic. Jesse. Clara shook him awake. Jesse, they're coming. He sat up, reaching for his gun. How many? 6. Get behind me. No. She grabbed a rifle from Dr. Warren's cabinet. We face them together. The door exploded inward. Jack and his men poured in, guns drawn. Step away from the half-breed, ma'am, Jack said. This ain't your fight. Clara raised her rifle. It became my fight the moment you broke into my clinic. You really gonna shoot white men to protect Apache trash? I'm going to shoot anyone who threatens my patients. Her voice was steel. Now get out. Put the gun down, lady. You're just making this worse. For who? Clara's finger moved to the trigger. Because from where I'm standing, you're the ones in danger. One of the men laughed nervously. She won't shoot. Won't I? Clara's eyes were cold. I nursed my husband through his final days. I watched him cough blood until he drowned in it. You think I'm afraid of blood now? The laughter died. Jesse stood, his own gun leveled. Last chance. Walk away. There's 6 of us and 2 of you, Jack said, but his voice wavered. I only need 1 bullet for you, Jesse replied calmly. Question is, which of your friends is willing to die second? The men looked at each other. Then the door crashed open again, and Dr. Warren stood there with the mayor and 10 townspeople behind him. Lower your weapons, Crenshaw commanded. All of you. But he killed Coleman, Jack protested. The sheriff died in an Apache ambush, the mayor said coldly. I've heard testimony from the surviving posse members. Stone tried to save him. He looked at Jack. You, however, just broke into a clinic with intent to commit murder. The law is pretty clear on that. Jack's face went white. You're taking his side. I'm taking the law's side. Crenshaw's voice was hard. And right now the law says you're under arrest. The miners were disarmed and marched out. When the clinic finally cleared, Clara's legs gave out. She sat down hard, the rifle clattering from her hands. Jesse dropped beside her. You okay? No. She started laughing high and wild. I just threatened to shoot 6 men. I'm not okay at all. He pulled her close and she buried her face in his chest, shaking. You would have done it, he said softly. Wouldn't you? Yes. Her voice was muffled. God help me, yes. God already helped you. He kissed the top of her head. He gave you terrible timing and a stubborn heart. She laughed through tears. Is that a compliment? It's the truth. Dr. Warren returned looking exhausted. The mayor wants to see you both. Now. They stood in the mayor's office, Clara still covered in dust. Jesse still bleeding from a dozen small cuts. Crenshaw sat behind his desk, his face unreadable. Jesse Stone, he began. I owe you an apology. Jesse went very still. Sir. The posse members confirmed your story. You tracked the raiders, engaged them, despite being outnumbered, and tried to protect Sheriff Coleman. Crenshaw's voice was formal. You acted with honor. The town thanks you. But Jesse could hear it coming. But your uncle has declared war on Salvation Creek. Every Apache band within 100 miles will hear his call. The mayor stood. We need to evacuate. Women and children first. Then. You can't outrun them. Jesse interrupted. They know this territory. They'll pick you off one wagon at a time. Then what do you suggest? I go back. Talk to my uncle. Jesse's voice was steady. Try to make peace. He'll kill you, Clara said. Maybe, but it's the only chance this town has. No. She grabbed his arm. I won't let you. It's not your choice, Clara. His eyes were gentle but firm. It's mine. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Why? Because it's dangerous. She laughed bitterly. Everything about us is dangerous, Jesse. At least let's be dangerous together. She has a point, Dr. Warren said quietly. Apache respect courage. A white woman willing to face them might carry more weight than a rejected half-breed. Jesse looked at Clara for a long moment. Then, if you come, you follow my lead. No arguments. No heroics. I make no promises about the heroics. She squeezed his hand. But I'll follow your lead. Mayor Crenshaw cleared his throat. If you can broker peace, the town will be in your debt, both of you. He paused. And Mrs. Bennett, your position is reinstated. with a raise. Clara blinked. What? You stood up to an armed mob to protect your patient. That's the kind of courage we need here. Crenshaw met her eyes. I was wrong about Jesse Stone, and I was wrong about you. You were, Clara agreed. But I appreciate you admitting it. After they left the mayor's office, Jesse turned to her. Last chance to back out. Not a chance. She smiled, though her heart was racing. We're bound together. Remember your soul and mine. That's Apache superstition. No. She touched his face. That's truth. They rode out at sunset, just the two of them, heading into Apache territory with nothing but hope and desperation to guide them. And behind them, Salvation Creek held its breath and prayed. The canyon swallowed them whole by the second day. Clara had never known silence could be so loud, just wind through rock and the steady rhythm of hoofbeats. Jesse rode ahead reading signs. She couldn't see his body, tense as wire. How much farther? She asked. We're already being watched. He didn't turn around. Have been since dawn. Her spine prickled. Where? Ridge above us. 2 scouts. Maybe 3. His voice was calm. Don't look. Don't react. Just keep riding. Clara's hands tightened on the reins, but she kept her eyes forward. Will they attack? Not yet. They're curious. He paused. About you. Me. White woman riding into Apache country with a half-breed. A bitter edge crept into his tone. They're trying to figure out if you're hostage or fool. What's the difference? Hostages get traded. Fools get killed. Comforting. He glanced back then, and something in his eyes softened. Stay close to me, no matter what happens. That was always the plan. They rode until the sun bled red across the rocks. Jesse finally stopped near a spring, dismounting in one fluid motion. We camp here, he said. They'll come after dark. Clara slid from her horse, her legs trembling. Your uncle? Maybe. Or warriors he sent to test us. Jesse built a fire with practiced efficiency. Either way, show no fear. Apache respect strength. I'm terrified. Then lie better. But his hand brushed hers as he passed, warm and steady. Night fell fast in the canyon. Clara sat by the fire watching shadows dance on stone. Jesse checked his rifle for the 3rd time, his movements mechanical. Tell me about your mother, she said suddenly. He went still. Why? Because I'm about to meet her people. I should know something about her. He was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, her name was Swift Deer. She was 16 when my father found her wounded after a raid. He nursed her back to health. Jesse's voice was distant. He fell in love with her, married her proper in a church. The tribe never forgave her for choosing a white man. But she did choose him. Yeah. And she spent the rest of her life caught between 2 worlds, same as me. He looked at Clara across the flames. When my father died, she went back to her people, thought maybe they'd accept her again, accept us. Did they? For a while, until the soldiers came. His jaw tightened. She died protecting me. Took 3 bullets meant for my back. Clara's throat closed. Jesse, my uncle was there. He saw her die because of me, because I was half white and the soldiers thought I was their scout. Jesse's voice cracked. He's hated me ever since. Says I carry my father's curse. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter to a man who's lost everything. Before Clara could respond, a voice spoke from the darkness. You learned to speak truth, nephew. That is something. Jesse was on his feet, instantly, gun drawn. 3 figures emerged from shadow warriors painted for war, rifles in hand. The one in front was older, maybe 50, with a face like carved stone and eyes that burned with old grief. Uncle. Jesse's voice was carefully neutral. We came to talk. Talk. The man running wolf. Clara realized laughed without humor. You come with a white woman to talk peace. You insult me. I come to prevent slaughter. Jesse lowered his gun slowly. Salvation Creek has women and children. Families. Like we were once a family. We stopped being family the day you put on that Army Scout jacket. I never scouted against our people. Never. You scouted for the men who kill our people. Same thing. Running Wolf's gaze shifted to Clara. And who is this, your white whore? Clara stood before Jesse could stop her. I'm Clara Bennett. I'm the town nurse, and I'm the woman who loves your nephew. The warriors stiffened. Running Wolf's eyes narrowed. Loves. He spat the word. White people don't love. They own. They take. Some do, Clara agreed. But not all. Jesse saved my life. Then I saved his. We're bound together. Bound. Running Wolf stepped closer. You speak of bonds. Tell me, white woman, if your people came for you tomorrow, would you stay with him or would you run back to your safe town? I've already lost my job for him. Faced an armed mob. Risked everything. Clara's voice didn't waver. I'm here now, aren't I? Running Wolf studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to Jesse. You bring her to prove that you've chosen the whites completely. I bring her to show you I've chosen love over hate. Jesse's voice was raw. Something my mother taught me. Something you taught me once before the soldiers took everything. Don't speak of her. Running Wolf's hand went to his knife. Don't say her name. Swift Deer. Jesse said it anyway. My mother, your sister. She died believing that hate destroys what it tries to protect. She died hoping I'd remember that. She died for nothing. But Running Wolf's voice cracked. No. Jesse stepped forward unarmed, now vulnerable. She died so I could live, so I could have a chance at something better than revenge and blood. He gestured to Clara. This woman, she's that chance. And Salvation Creek, those people are trying. Learning. Not all of them, but enough. Enough! Running Wolf's laugh was bitter. How many enough whites does it take to balance the hundreds of dead Apache? The stolen lands? The broken treaties? None. Jesse's honesty was brutal. Nothing balances that. But more killing won't balance it either. It just makes more ghosts. Silence fell like stone. Then one of the other warriors spoke, younger, maybe 20. The half-breed speaks wisdom, Running Wolf. Perhaps silence. But Running Wolf's voice lacked its earlier venom. He looked at Clara again. You say you love him. Yes. Prove it. Clara's heart hammered. How? Running Wolf pulled his knife. Jesse tensed, but the older man just held it out, handle first to Clara. Cut him, he said. Draw blood. Show me you understand what loving a half-breed means, that you accept the pain that comes with it. No. Jesse moved to stop her. Clara, don't. But Clara took the knife. Her hands shook, but she met Running Wolf's eyes. Where? His arm. Shallow. Just enough to scar. She turned to Jesse. He stared at her, fear and love and desperation mixed in his expression. It's okay, she whispered. Trust me. She pressed the blade to his forearm and cut quick and clean. Blood welled up dark in the firelight. Jesse didn't flinch. Then Clara did something that made all three warriors suck in breath. She cut her own arm in the exact same place. Same length. Same depth. We bleed together, she said, her voice shaking but firm. His pain is mine. Always. She pressed her wound to his blood mixing and held his gaze. Running Wolf made a sound, half sob, half laugh. My sister did the same thing. When she married the white trapper, cut herself to show the tribe she accepted all that came with her choice. Jesse stared at Clara like she'd grown wings. You shouldn't have. I should have done it sooner. She didn't let go of his arm. Running Wolf sheathed his knife. The white woman has courage, more than most warriors. He looked at Jesse. 3 days. I will give you 3 days to evacuate Salvation Creek. After that we come, not to kill, to reclaim what was stolen." "What was stolen?" Clara asked. "The land your town sits on. It was Apache territory before the treaties, before the lies." Running Wolf's voice was tired. "We don't want your buildings or your gold. We want the spring, the hunting grounds, what our ancestors died protecting." Jesse exchanged a look with Clara. "If the town agrees to share the land, share." Running Wolf shook his head. "Whites don't share. They take." "Then let me prove you wrong." Jesse's voice was urgent. "Give me those 3 days. Let me convince them. We can find a way to coexist. Like you and I coexist." Bitterness dripped from the words. "You're not Apache anymore, Jesse. You're not white either. You're nothing. Then I'm free to choose what I become." Jesse stepped closer to his uncle. "And I choose to be a bridge, even if both sides hate me for it." Running Wolf stared at him, then at Clara, still holding Jesse's bleeding arm. Finally he nodded once. 3 days, then we come." He turned to leave, paused. "Your mother would be proud of you, nephew, even if I cannot be." The warriors disappeared into darkness. Clara's legs gave out. Jesse caught her as she fell, and they sank to the ground together, still bleeding, still holding on. "That was insane," he whispered. "I know." She was shaking violently now. "Did it work?" "I don't know." He pulled her close. "But you just earned more respect in 10 minutes than I've earned in 5 years. She laughed high and wild. "I cut myself in front of Apache warriors. I've officially lost my mind." "Welcome to my world." He kissed her forehead. "We should bandage these." They cleaned and wrapped their wounds by firelight, working with the practiced ease of 2 people who'd patched each other up before. When they finished, Jesse pulled Clara into his arms. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "The cutting, the blood bond." "Yes, I did." She looked up at him. "Because Running Wolf was right. Loving you means accepting pain. Accepting that we'll always be fighting for a place to exist." She touched his face. "But I'm tired of existing safely. I want to live dangerously. With you." He kissed her, then, deep and desperate, like a man who'd been holding back too long. Clara kissed him back, tasting smoke and blood and promise. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Jesse whispered, "If we make it through this." "When we make it through this," she corrected. "When?" He smiled, despite everything. "Will you marry me?" Clara's breath caught. "Are you proposing badly? Yeah." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "I have nothing to offer you. No home, no money, no future that doesn't involve fighting just to survive." "Sounds perfect." "Clara." "Yes." She kissed him again. "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to all of it." They held each other as the fire burned down, 2 souls, bound by blood and choice and love. They rode back into Salvation Creek at dawn on the 3rd day. The town was armed and barricaded, men on rooftops with rifles, women and children sheltering in the church. Mayor Crenshaw met them in the street. "Did you succeed?" "Partially." Jesse dismounted, helping Clara down. "Running Wolf gave us 3 days to evacuate, but I think there's another way." "What way?" "The Apache want the land back. The spring, the hunting grounds, what the town was built on." Jesse's voice was steady. "If we agree to share it." "Share our land with savages," someone shouted from the crowd. "It was their land first," Clara snapped. "We're the ones who took it." Murmurs rippled through the townspeople. Mayor Crenshaw raised his hand for silence. "What exactly are you proposing, Stone?" "A treaty. Real one, not the paper lies the government makes." Jesse stepped forward. "We keep the town. They get access to the spring and hunting rights to the Eastern Valley. We agree not to expand further into their territory. And if they break the treaty, they won't. Not if we don't." Jesse's jaw was tight. Running Wolf is a man of honor. He'll keep his word if we keep ours. You're asking us to trust Apache. Reverend Blackwood's voice dripped scorn. I'm asking you to trust me. Jesse looked at each face in the crowd. I've scouted for you, bled for you, saved your children from fire and your town from plague. Have I ever lied to you? Silence. Then Dr. Warren stepped forward. I trust him, and if Jesse says this will work, it's our best chance. I trust him too. Clara moved to Jesse's side. He's never broken his word. One by one, others stepped forward. The miners Jesse had rescued. The women Clara had nursed. Even some who'd once called him half-breed. But not everyone. Jack pushed through the crowd, his face twisted with hate. You're all fools. The minute we let our guard down, they'll slaughter us. No one's asking you to stay, Jack, the mayor said coldly. If you don't like our decision, you're free to leave. I ain't leaving. This is my town. Jack's hand dropped to his gun. And I ain't letting no half-breed sell us out to his Apache friends. Jack, the sheriff's voice was warning. Don't. But Jack was already drawing. Jesse moved faster, not for his own gun, but pushing Clara behind him. The shot rang out deafening in the morning air. Jesse staggered. Clara screamed. Then Jack was on the ground, the sheriff's rifle smoking. Damn fool, the sheriff muttered. Jesse pressed his hand to his side. Blood seeped through his fingers. I'm okay. He collapsed. Clara caught him going down hard under his weight. Jesse! No! Get him to the clinic! Dr. Warren was already running. They carried Jesse through the street. Clara's hands pressed to his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. She could feel his life pouring out between her fingers, warm and terrible. Stay with me, she begged. Jesse, please. His eyes fluttered open. Clara, don't talk. Save your strength. Have to tell you. He coughed blood on his lips. The treaty. Make sure. I will. I promise. Tears streamed down her face. But you're going to be here to see it. Love you. His voice was fading. Even if... Don't you dare. She gripped his face. Don't you dare say goodbye. We're bound together. Remember, you don't get to leave. They reached the clinic. Dr. Warren and Clara worked in desperate tandem, cutting away Jesse's shirt, packing the wound, searching for the bullet. It had entered below his ribs, angled upward. It's bad, the doctor said quietly. If it hit anything vital, then fix it. Clara's voice broke. Please, I can't lose him. For 3 hours they fought. Clara had never prayed so hard in her life when Dr. Warren finally pulled the bullet free. She nearly sobbed with relief. He's not out of danger, the doctor warned. Infection, blood loss. But he's alive. For now. Clara sank into the chair beside Jesse's bed and took his hand. His skin was cold, his breathing shallow. She pressed her bandaged forearm, still marked from the blood bond, against his. You promised me a wedding, she whispered. You promised me a life. So don't you dare break that promise now. Jesse drifted in and out for 2 days. When he was conscious, he asked about the treaty. When he slept, he called for his mother. Clara stayed by his side, leaving only when Dr. Warren forced her to eat or rest. She bathed Jesse's fevered skin, changed his bandages, whispered prayers and promises into his hair. On the 3rd morning, Running Wolf appeared at the clinic door. Clara grabbed the rifle. If you've come to finish him... I came to see if my nephew lives. The old warrior's face was grave. I heard he was shot protecting the white woman. Protecting me? Yes. Clara didn't lower the rifle. Your 3 days are up. I know. Running Wolf stepped closer. But I also know my nephew bleeds for your people. Again. Still. He looked at Jesse's pale face. How many times will he have to bleed before they see his worth? As many times as it takes. Clara's voice was fierce. Because that's who he is. He'll keep bleeding, keep fighting, keep trying to build bridges, even if it kills him. Running Wolf was silent for a long moment. Then, my sister chose the same path. It broke her heart and ended her life. He met Clara's eyes. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared to fight for him, every day, forever. She finally lowered the rifle. And I'm prepared to honor the treaty he negotiated, whether your people are or not. You would honor a treaty even if Jesse dies. Especially if he dies. Her voice cracked. Because then someone has to finish what he started. Running Wolf nodded slowly. The white woman has the heart of a warrior. He pulled something from his belt, a woven bracelet, silver and black. My sister made this, for the son she hoped Jesse would become. A bridge between worlds. He handed it to Clara. Give it to him. Tell him. His voice broke. Tell him his mother's brother remembers what it means to love. Then he was gone. Clara stood holding the bracelet, tears streaming down her face. She turned back to Jesse and found his eyes open, watching her. Hey, she whispered. You're awake. Did I hear? He coughed, wincing. My uncle. He came to check on you. She slipped the bracelet onto his wrist. And to give you this, from your mother. Jesse stared at the bracelet, his eyes filling with tears. He kept it, all these years. He loved her, loves you. Clara brushed his hair back. He's calling off the attack. What? He said any nephew willing to die building bridges deserves a chance to finish the job. She smiled through tears. We have our treaty, Jesse. Signed by both sides. The mayor agreed to everything you asked for. Jesse tried to sit up and gasped in pain. Clara pushed him back down gently. Easy. You were shot, remember? I remember. He caught her hand. I remember you screaming. I remember thinking I'd never get to marry you. Well, you're alive, so now you have to. She kissed his knuckles. No backing out. Wouldn't dream of it, His grip tightened. Clara. I know. She pressed her forehead to his. I love you too. Jesse recovered slowly. Too slowly for Clara's liking, but Dr. Warren assured her the healing was normal. She nursed him with the same fierce determination she'd shown facing the mob, bullying him into eating, forcing him to rest, threatening to tie him to the bed when he tried to get up too soon. You're a terrible patient, she told him on the 5th day. You're a terrifying nurse, he countered. Good. Then you'll do what I say. He caught her wrist, pulling her closer. I'll do what you say after you marry me. That's not how marriage works. Then I'm already winning. He kissed her palm. Marry me today. You can't even stand. I'll sit. You'll stand. Works out perfectly. Jesse. Clara. His eyes were serious now. I've been shot, stabbed, and nearly died 3 times since meeting you. Let's not wait for number 4. She laughed despite herself. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's the second proposal I've given you. I'm improving. Fine, she smiled. But only because I'm afraid you'll hurt yourself trying to get out of bed. Smart woman. They married that afternoon in the clinic, Dr. Warren officiating, Mayor Crenshaw, and half the town crammed into the small room. Jesse sat propped against pillows, Clara knelt beside his bed, and they spoke their vows with blood-stained bandages still wrapped around their matching scars. I promise to love you. Jesse said, his voice rough but steady. To build bridges with you, to bleed with you. I promise to fight for you, Clara replied. To stand with you, to choose you, every day, forever. When Dr. Warren pronounced them married, Jesse pulled Clara into a kiss that made the crowd whistle and cheer. You're stuck with me now, he whispered against her lips. Good, she whispered back. I wouldn't have it any other way. 3 weeks later, Jesse was finally strong enough to ride. He and Clara traveled back to Running Wolf's camp, this time welcomed with ceremony instead of threat. The old warrior embraced his nephew for the first time in 5 years. "You built your bridge, little brother. Now walk across it." "We'll walk together," Jesse said. "All of us." And they did. The treaty held. Apache hunters came to the Eastern Valley. Townspeople learned to share the spring. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments, misunderstandings, moments of tension. But Clara and Jesse stood in the middle, translating words and hearts bleeding together when necessary, loving fiercely always. On quiet nights, Clara would touch the scar on Jesse's arm, the match to her own, and remember the moment she chose love over safety. "Any regrets?" Jesse would ask. "Only that I didn't cut deeper," she'd reply with a smile. "Make sure you couldn't escape." "Never escaping you, Mrs. Stone." He'd pull her close. "You're stuck with me forever." "Promise." "Promise." And under the vast western sky, two souls bound by blood and choice and love would hold each other tight, knowing that the hardest battles were behind them. The future stretched out uncertain and wild, but they would face it together, always. 6 months after the treaty, Clara woke to find Jesse gone from their bed. She pulled on her shawl and found him outside their small house on the edge of town, staring toward the eastern hills. Dawn was just breaking, painting the sky in shades of copper and gold. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. "Riders coming." His voice was tense. "From the fort." Clara's stomach dropped. "How many?" 12. Maybe 15. He turned to look at her, and she saw the fear in his eyes. "Army patrol." They'd known this day might come. The treaty between Salvation Creek and the Apache had been made without government approval, without permission. For 6 months, they'd lived in fragile peace, hoping the army wouldn't notice or care. That hope was about to die. "What do we do?" Clara asked. "We face them." Jesse's jaw was tight. "Together." By the time the patrol rode into town, half of Salvation Creek had gathered in the street. Captain Morrison led them, a hard-faced man with cold eyes, and a reputation for dealing harshly with Indian sympathizers. "I'm looking for Jesse Stone," he announced. "That's me." Jesse stepped forward. Morrison's gaze raked over him with contempt. "You're the half-breed who brokered the illegal treaty with the Apache." "It's not illegal. It's a private agreement between the town and Running Wolf's band. All agreements with hostiles require federal approval." Morrison pulled out a document. "I have orders to dissolve this treaty and relocate the Apache to the reservation." "No." Clara pushed through the crowd. "That wasn't our agreement." "And who are you?" "Clara Stone. I'm his wife and the town nurse." She lifted her chin. "The treaty has kept peace for 6 months. Your relocation will start a war." "Then there'll be a war." Morrison's voice was flat. "We have our orders." "Orders from men who've never been here," Jesse said. "Who don't understand what we've built." "What you've built is irrelevant." Morrison gestured to his men. "We move out at dawn tomorrow to round up the Apache. Anyone who interferes will be arrested for treason." The word hung in the air like poison. Mayor Crenshaw stepped forward. "Captain, perhaps we could discuss." "There's nothing to discuss." Morrison's eyes were ice. "This town has been harboring hostiles. The treaty is void." "Then arrest me," Clara said suddenly. "I negotiated the terms. I signed the document. If anyone's committed treason, it's me." "Clara, no." Jesse grabbed her arm. "I won't let them destroy what we built." She shook him off and faced Morrison. "Take me to your superiors. Let me explain what's really happening here." Morrison studied her with something like amusement. "You want to go to Fort Prescott and face a military tribunal?" "Yes." "Clara." Jesse's voice was desperate. "It's the only way." She turned to him, her eyes pleading. "If I can make them understand—" "They won't understand. They'll lock you up." His hands gripped her shoulders. "Or worse." "Then at least I tried." She touched his face. Better than watching them destroy everything. Morrison made a disgusted sound. Fine. Mrs. Stone, you're under arrest. We leave at dawn. I'm coming with her, Jesse said immediately. You're not invited, half-breed. I'm her husband. Where she goes, I go. Then you'll both be arrested. Morrison smiled coldly. Makes my job easier. They spent their last night in Salvation Creek in the clinic under guard. Clara sat beside Jesse on the narrow cot, their hands intertwined. This is insane, he said quietly. You're throwing yourself into prison for nothing. Not for nothing. For peace. She leaned her head on his shoulder. For what we built together. It won't work. The army doesn't care about peace with Apache. Maybe not, but I have to try. She looked up at him. If I don't, and they relocate Running Wolf's people and war breaks out, I'll know I could have stopped it. Or you could have lived. His voice cracked. Safely. Here. I don't want safe anymore. Remember. She kissed him softly. I want dangerous. With you. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I can't lose you. You won't. We're bound together. She pressed her scarred arm to his. Blood and soul. That's Apache superstition. No. She smiled against his chest. That's truth. Dr. Sir, Warren came to see them before dawn, bringing food and fresh bandages. You're both fools, he said, but his voice was kind. We've been called worse, Clara replied. The town's raising money for a lawyer. The doctor hesitated. And Running Wolf sent word. He wants to come with you. Testify. Jesse sat up straight. He can't. They'll arrest him too. He says the same thing you did. Where his nephew goes, he goes. Dr. Warren smiled sadly. You built a stronger bridge than you knew Jesse. They rode out at dawn. Clara and Jesse in chains, surrounded by soldiers, Running Wolf and 3 of his warriors, following at a distance. Captain Morrison had tried to arrest the Apache, but Running Wolf had simply said, We come freely to speak truth. If you want war, arrest us. If you want peace, let us ride. Morrison, outnumbered, and clearly uncomfortable, had allowed it. The journey to Fort Prescott took 5 days. Each night, Clara and Jesse were kept separated, her in the supply wagon, him tied to a tree. But Running Wolf's warriors always camped within sight, a silent reminder that the Apache were watching. On the 3rd night, Morrison came to Clara's wagon. You really love him? He asked abruptly. The half-breed, his name is Jesse. Clara's voice was steel. And yes, I love him more than anything in this world. You could have had a normal life, married a white man, had children, been respectable. I am respectable. I'm a nurse who helped stop a smallpox epidemic and brokered peace between enemies. She met his eyes. What have you done, Captain? His jaw tightened. I follow orders. So do dogs. She turned away. I thought soldiers were supposed to be more than that. Morrison left without another word. Fort Prescott loomed ahead on the 5th day, high walls, armed guards, the American flag snapping in the wind. Clara's hands shook as they rode through the gates. She'd never felt so small, so powerless. They were separated immediately. Jesse was taken to the stockade, Running Wolf and his warriors to a guarded tent. Clara was brought to the commandant's office. Colonel Hastings was older than she expected, maybe 60, with gray hair and tired eyes. He gestured for her to sit. Mrs. Stone, I've read Captain Morrison's report. He tapped the papers on his desk. You negotiated an unauthorized treaty with hostile Apache. With Running Wolf's band. They're not hostile. They haven't attacked anyone in 6 months. Because you're feeding them, giving them access to water and hunting grounds that belong to the United States government. Those lands belong to the Apache first. Clara leaned forward. The government took them. We're just trying to share what was stolen. That's not your decision to make. Then whose decision is it? Her voice rose. Men in Washington who've never met an Apache, who don't care if they live or die as long as they're out of sight. Hastings was quiet for a moment. You're brave, Mrs. Stone, or foolish. I haven't decided which. Does it matter? It might. He stood walking to the window. I've been an Army officer for 38 years. I've fought in 3 wars, and I've learned that orders aren't always right. He turned to face her. But they're still orders. Even when they'll start a war. Even then. Clara felt tears burn her eyes. So you'll relocate them, break the treaty, destroy everything we've built. Unless you can give me a reason not to. Hastings sat down again. Convince me, Mrs. Stone. You have one chance. She took a deep breath. Running Wolf's band has 43 people. 15 are children under 10. 8 are elders who can barely walk. The rest are men and women just trying to survive. Her voice shook. They're not warriors anymore. They're farmers, hunters, families. They've kept every promise they made. They've shared the land peacefully. And if I let this treaty stand, other tribes will want the same. Other towns will make their own agreements. The government will lose control. The government already lost control. Clara's voice was fierce now. You lost it the moment you broke every treaty you ever made with these people, the moment you decided they were less than human. She stood. I can't change history, but I can change today, right here, right now. Let the treaty stand. Show that the Army can keep its word for once. Hastings stared at her for a long moment. You really believe that? I believe in Jesse Stone. I believe in Running Wolf. I believe people can be better than their worst impulses. She met his eyes. Don't you? I used to. His voice was barely a whisper. The tribunal was held 2 days later in the fort's chapel. Clara and Jesse sat together, finally their chains removed. Running Wolf stood beside them tall and proud. Captain Morrison testified first, detailing the illegal treaty and the threat the Apache posed. Then Clara took the stand. She spoke for an hour, her voice never wavering, telling the story of how Jesse saved her life, how the town had grown to trust him, how the treaty had brought peace instead of bloodshed. She showed them her scar, the blood bond she'd made with Jesse. I'm not asking you to forgive the past, she said. I'm asking you to choose the future. Let this treaty stand. Let us prove that peace is possible. The officers conferred. Colonel Hastings spoke last. Mrs. Stone, your testimony is compelling, but the law is clear. Unauthorized treaties with hostile tribes are illegal. Clara's heart sank. However, Hastings raised his hand. The law also says that if a treaty promotes peace and serves the interests of the United States, it can be ratified retroactively by the local military commander. He paused. I am that commander. Hope flared in Clara's chest. Therefore, I'm officially recognizing the Salvation Creek Treaty. Running Wolf's band will not be relocated. The terms will stand as written. He looked at Morrison. Captain, you will return to Salvation Creek and ensure the treaty is enforced. By both sides. Morrison's face went red. Sir, this sets a dangerous precedent. It sets a precedent of keeping our word. Hastings's voice was steel. For once, dismissed. Clara couldn't breathe. Jesse grabbed her hand, his grip crushing. Running Wolf stood silent, but she saw tears in the old warrior's eyes. They'd won. The ride back to Salvation Creek took 7 days, but it felt like flying. Clara and Jesse rode together this time, no chains, no guards. Running Wolf and his warriors rode alongside, singing songs Clara didn't understand, but felt in her bones. On the 6th night, Running Wolf came to their fire. My nephew, he said, you built your bridge, and you proved an old warrior wrong. I had help. Jesse looked at Clara. A lot of help. The white woman has a warrior's heart. Running Wolf turned to Clara. "My sister would have loved you." "I wish I could have met her," Clara said softly. "You did. In him." The old man touched Jessie's shoulder. "You carry her spirit. Her hope." He paused. "When you have children, teach them both worlds. Let them walk the bridge you built." Clara's hand went to her stomach instinctively. She hadn't told Jessie yet, hadn't been sure until yesterday when Dr. Warren had examined her before they left. But Running Wolf saw the gesture and smiled. "A new generation," he said. "Neither white nor Apache. Both. Something new." After he left, Jessie turned to Clara. "What was that about?" She took his hand and pressed it to her belly. "We're going to have a baby." Jessie went very still. "What?" "I found out right before the tribunal. I was going to tell you, but—" She smiled through tears. "Surprise." He pulled her into his arms so hard she gasped. "Clara! God! Clara!" "Is that a good surprise?" "The best." He kissed her, his hands shaking. "The absolute best. Even though we're broke and living on the edge of society, and probably going to spend our lives fighting for acceptance. Especially because of that." He pressed his forehead to hers. "Our child will be a bridge too, another connection between worlds. A lot of pressure for someone who isn't even born yet. Then we'll carry it together." He placed his hand over hers on her stomach. "All three of us." They returned to Salvation Creek to cheers and celebration. The whole town gathered to welcome them home, Apache and White standing together. Mayor Crenshaw announced the treaty's ratification, and the crowd erupted. Dr. Warren hugged Clara so hard she wheezed. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," she corrected, looking at Jessie. That night they held a feast, both peoples cooking together, sharing food and stories. Children played without fear, darting between Apache lodges and town buildings. Old barriers were dissolving slowly but surely. Clara stood watching it all. Jessie's arm around her waist, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete happiness. "What are you thinking?" Jessie asked. "That I came here to be a nurse." She leaned into him. "But I became so much more. A wife. A peacemaker." He kissed her temple. "A mother. A bridge." "Yeah." His voice was soft. "A bridge." The baby came in late spring, born in the little house on the edge of town with Dr. Warren attending, and Running Wolf's wife singing Apache blessing songs. She was a girl with Jessie's dark hair and Clara's gray eyes, beautiful and perfect. They named her Swift Deer for Jessie's mother. "She's going to change the world," Clara whispered, holding her daughter for the first time. "She already has." Jessie touched the baby's tiny hand. "Just by existing." Running Wolf came to see his grandniece the next day, bringing gifts: a woven blanket, a silver bracelet, a carved wooden horse. "She carries hope," he said, looking at the sleeping infant. "Hope that my sister died for. Hope that you fought for." He looked at Clara and Jessie. "Raise her strong. Raise her proud. Teach her both languages, both worlds." "We will," Clara promised. "And when she asks why the world is hard, tell her it's because she's building something new." Running Wolf's voice was gentle. "Tell her that bridges are always built in the space between, where it's hardest, but where it matters most." Years passed. Swift Deer grew strong and wild riding before she could walk, speaking English and Apache with equal fluency. She became the heart of the bridge her parents had built, playing with children from both sides, translating when words failed, reminding everyone that divisions were learned, not born. Other children followed. 2 more daughters, then a son. Each one a testament to love's power to overcome hate. The treaty held. Not perfectly. There were still arguments, still moments of tension, still people on both sides who couldn't let go of old grudges. But the bridge stood, and it grew stronger with each passing season. Clara continued her work as a nurse, treating Apache and White with equal care. Jesse scouted less and taught more, training young men from both peoples to read the land, to track, to understand the language of wind and stone. Together, they became legends, not for grand gestures or dramatic battles, but for the quiet daily work of choosing love over fear, understanding over judgment, bridge building over wall raising. On their 10th anniversary, Jesse took Clara back to the spring where he'd first saved her life. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Giving up everything for this life?" "Never." She touched the scar on her arm, faded but still visible. "Not once." "Even when it's hard?" "Especially when it's hard." She turned to face him. "Because hard means it matters. Easy means nothing's changing." She took his hand. "We changed everything, Jesse. We proved that love can bridge any divide, that people can be better than their worst fears. We proved it for now," he said quietly. "But every generation has to prove it again. Then we'll teach our children how." She kissed him. "And they'll teach theirs, and on until one day maybe the bridge won't need so much defending." "You really believe that?" "I have to." She smiled. "Because the alternative is giving up. And I didn't fall in love with a man who gives up." He pulled her close, holding her like he'd held her that first night, with the kind of fierce tenderness that came from knowing how easily love could be lost, how precious it was to find. "I love you," he said. "More than I thought possible." "I know." She rested her head on his chest. "I love you too." They stood by the spring as the sun set, two souls bound by blood and choice and a decade of fighting for the life they'd chosen. Behind them, Salvation Creek hummed with life, Apache and white, old and young, all learning to share the same ground. It wasn't perfect peace, but it was real peace. Hard-won and carefully tended. And in the end, that was worth more than any easy paradise. Clara was 58 when Jesse died. He went peacefully in their bed, holding her hand and telling her stories about their grandchildren. His last words were in Apache, a prayer his mother had taught him about souls finding each other again beyond death. She buried him in the place where two worlds met, half in Apache ground, half in town cemetery, just as he'd lived. Running Wolf had died 5 years earlier, but his great-grandson spoke the burial rites' young voice, strong with the weight of tradition. Clara lived another 12 years, long enough to see their children grown and their grandchildren having children of their own. Long enough to watch Salvation Creek become a model for peaceful coexistence, studied by government officials and written about in Eastern newspapers. On the day she died, surrounded by family, both blood and chosen, her last words were simple. "We built a bridge, keep walking across it." And they did. Swift Deer took over her mother's clinic, treating the next generation with the same fierce compassion Clara had shown. Jesse, and Clara's son, became a translator for the territorial government, using his father's gift for languages to broker peace across the West. Their grandchildren carried the work forward. Then their great-grandchildren, each generation adding their own stones to the bridge. The story of Clara Bennett and Jesse Stone became legend, told around fires on both sides, remembered in songs and stories. Not as a fairy tale of perfect love, but as a testament to the power of choice. The choice to see humanity in the other. The choice to build instead of destroy. The choice to love dangerously instead of live safely. And every time someone in Salvation Creek faced prejudice or fear, every time the old divisions threatened to resurface, someone would remember the nurse and the scout who'd cut their arms and mixed their blood and built a bridge where there was only canyon. They'd remember that peace isn't given, it's built. One choice at a time, one generation teaching the next, one bridge standing against the wind and time and fear. Clara and Jesse had proven it could be done. And in proving it, they'd changed not just Salvation Creek, but the very idea of what was possible when two people decided that love was stronger than hate, that understanding could overcome prejudice, and that the hardest bridges, the ones built between worlds, were always worth the blood and tears it took to raise them. Their names faded into history, but their bridge remained walked on, strengthened, protected by those who understood its value. Because, in the end, the greatest legacy isn't monuments or wealth or power. It's the paths we build for others to follow, the bridges we leave standing when we're gone, and the love we prove is possible, even when the whole world says it isn't. Clara Bennett Stone and Jesse Wolfsong Stone had built that bridge with blood and courage and impossible dangerous love. And it stood.